Hey, Army fans, this is Colonel Sam coming back at you. As promised, we're going to take the part two, get into the Army defense as we get ready for the Friday night under the lights, the spring game, which will culminate the Army Spring Practice 2026. Still a lot of question marks, definitely on the defensive side of the ball. There's some big holes that need to be filled, positions, next man up, etc., coming off the 2025 season because just about the entire linebacking core, led by stalwart captains Andon Thomas and Caleb Fortner, graduated. Both of the starting safeties graduated. And so the defense, I believe, is only bringing back 3 full-time starters from the 2025 squad. But in addition to that, they lost Nate Woody, their longtime defensive coordinator, who arrived on the scene back before the 2020 season and has really delivered some very good, very stingy Army defenses that have been built and predicated upon the premise of bend but don't break. So he's been replaced by promoted safety coach Daryl Dixon. Daryl, I'm hearing, is a student of Nate Woody, and so I don't think that we're going to see a big change in what Daryl brings to the table as far as defensive schemes, game plans, and how he calls the game during the game itself is probably going to be the biggest thing that we'll be watching to see if he is such a student of the game from Nate Woody that he still calls the games almost in a mirror-like fashion of how Nate would call, or if he does things a little different. And that could be, just about anything like stunts or blitzes or when he calls certain defensive alignments for expected either pass coverages or quarterback pressures or whatever else. But the first task that Coach Dixon is going to have is filling those holes of all of those departed starting players from the 2025 season. But before I get into that, let's talk about the number one factor of Army defense and what their defensive game plan is. And it starts with the offense. So if you've been following Army football for a long time, you understand what I'm talking about. If you're new to this forum and you hear me say that and you're scratching your head and you're saying, hey, man, I thought this was going to be about defense. Well, it is about defense because Army wins game on offense via time of possession and not turning over the ball, finishing their long drives with touchdowns, and putting games out of reach, squeezing the clock to the point that the other team does not have time enough to make a comeback nor stay in the game because their defense is completely worn out and their offense never gets a real opportunity to warm up. So we like to see Army dominate time of possession anywhere between 35 and 40 minutes of every game. Army has to win the turnover battle. They need to be +1 to +3 in every game. And the offense needs to take the governor off and use all of its offensive players and playmakers in their offensive schemes and never let off the accelerator pedal. Something that Army was very prone to do this past season. It was very frustrating to just about everyone watching, was that they would put the governors on the offense and go one-dimensional with just quarterback dives, either from under center or from the shotgun position. And here's the thing. When you're running a true triple option offense, there is no feature back. And as I said in the previous episode, Army's offense is going to be loaded with playmakers this season. They'll be minus Noah Short, but the next man up should find a suitable replacement for Noah's type of production and what he brought to the game. So Army's offense, you got to get it done. Defense starts with offense, and by that it means scoring often, scoring touchdowns, not turning over the ball, and winning time of possession. That gives your defense plenty of time to get a breather and be ready and fresh for the next time they actually have to hit the field. Now, for this year's Army defense, there's some big holes to fill. And I already said that. I don't like to be where I'm talking and redundant, but sometimes I do get that way a little bit, and I apologize. But what's some bright sides of Army's defense coming into this season? They didn't lose everybody. So it isn't doom and gloom. As a matter of fact, they bring back some pretty experienced players. They bring back cornerbacks Jackson Hammond and Jaden Mays. Both of these players saw extensive playing time this past season. And I believe it was Jaden Mays who had a pick six that he took to the house from about 89 yards or something like that at UTSA. I was there. It was grand. They bring back safeties Stephen Nadozie and Larry Pickett Jr., he who now has the Soldier's Medal, rightfully so, for his heroic actions after a game last season. And they bring back nickelback Cole Seawright. And Cole Seawright is a great player, too. I mean, how could you forget that strip sack he had of Air Force as quarterback late in the game that led to an Army recovery and stopped an Air Force drive when they were knocking on Army's doorstep. So he's coming back. Then on the defensive line, we've got some pretty good players coming back. Jack Bosom, who just as the year progressed last year became a dominant force and one of the better Army defensive tackles that I've seen play in the last few years of the Monken era. And he's got a motor that never stops. He's a big kid, very motivated. He was a one-man wrecking machine against the Squids, and he had himself a whale of a game, let me tell you, which is not lost on the fact that he's from Annapolis. It's kind of funny like that. Then you got Cody Harris Miller, who really does appear to be getting completely healthy again. You know, he's over 300 pounds. He's a dominant force on the inside, and he's good at being able to take up and swallow 2 or 3 blockers on every play that can free up linebackers. You got Dylan Stowers coming back, and you got some other defensive linemen who all saw plenty of game time last year to be ready to step in and be in the starting role for the team. So that leaves the biggest question. I think that this is the only year that I remember in the Monken era where they lost every starting linebacker. Every one of them graduated. So every starting linebacker has got to be replaced. And when I scanned Army's roster, there are plenty of young men who I see on that roster who are big. They look strong. They've had some playing time, some to no playing time in games. And they're going to have to actually prove which one is ready to be the starter and be the leader on the defense. I've been hearing some good things about Bryson Banks. Just for an example, I think that we're probably going to see a lot of him in the coming season. But there's some other players on the roster. I don't even want to start going into names because I don't have any way of assessing their talent. It's up to the coaches to be able to figure out who the best 4 new starters are going to be. But one thing about the Monken era is that every season there has always been a great bunch of linebackers on the Army defense. And there's been some great ones too. You know, like Cole Christensen, for example, the Fortner and Thomas from last year, you know, another great duo of linebackers. Nautigal, for example, is another great name that comes to mind. Brinson, another great outside linebacker that comes to mind. I think Army's all-time sack leader. So I could go on and talk about Army linebackers and the tradition that has been worthy of almost calling West Point linebacker U under the Monken era. So I'm sure that we're going to see some linebackers step up from the roster and prove their mettle to be the next set of starters that is going to command the inside of that defense and in both pass coverage and run protection. So we'll see what happens in the spring game for this one. You know, so, but as a strategy, what does the Army defense need to be able to do? Well, a lot of people were criticizing the fact that we had a team like Bryant as the opening game. I don't criticize it. Matter of fact, I think it's a great thing. It's a great thing for the defense. It's a great thing for the defense because it's going to give the defense 4 quarters of playing time in a game they need to get used to being on the field and seeing the game slow down in front of them. It's going to help set the starters, set the roster, set the starters for the defense. And we'll be able to get a healthy dose. I think it's the kind of game where we're going to get a healthy dose of a lot of players being rotated in to get playing time, genuine game time, before the meat of the season hits. So I can't express to how much I think that this is a really well-timed game to start the season with, because the defense is going to need it. This defense is going to need, because of the number of new and key players and positions that have to be filled, this defense is going to need 2 or 3 games to start settling. So, we'll get a part of the picture in the spring game. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the highlights and hearing some of the news and what comes out of it. I do expect that this defense is going to be able to mesh under Coach Dixon's leadership and become as effective as it needs to be, similar to Army defenses in the past. I think that we're probably going to see some early season hiccups, most notably in probably the medium range passing games, passing defense. But my key to the defense, especially early on, but it's true for every game, is this: the good components of the defense that are returning, that being the corners and the defensive linemen. They've got their work cut out for them. The defensive linemen are going to have to be the best players on the field from the first snap of the game, of the season. The combination of Bosom and Cody Harris-Miller and the others, they have got, from the start, they got to be able to swallow blockers so that the linebackers, these new linebackers that are going to be on the field, are not targeted by blocking. The linebackers can roam free and get used to moving within their position and their assignments and stopping the run and being in position on pass plays. So defensive linemen winning the line of scrimmage, beating their blocks, swallowing up blockers, freeing up the linebackers to do their job, it's going to be a real key. Looking forward to seeing how it goes. I do believe that this defense has the players on the roster to once again make a pretty dominant force. But again, I'm going to go back to the offense and say, offense, you got to get it done this season. You've got to get it done. And when I say get it done, I mean you've got to score points when you dominate the time of possession. It's worthless to dominate time of possession and not get any points out of it, because you're asking too much from your defense to keep a game close late every week, like we saw just about every week of this past season. There's got to be some games this season where Army's up by 3 or 4 touchdowns, and the defense can have a field day teeing off on the other team's quarterback. So anyway, looking forward to a great season on defense. Let's talk just for a minute about special teams. Special teams is in great shape. As we know, longtime coach Sean Saturnio, who also got promoted to associate head coach with the departure of Mike Beatty, has always been a completely motivating factor for the Army team. And we've come to absolutely love his motivational Hawaiian haka dance type motivational speeches at the beginning of every game that he does with the team. I always look forward to watching a replay of that from every game, and when I'm at the stadium, I watch for them to perform that ritual when they're on the field. It's pretty awesome. He is beloved by the players. He is just a stalwart in the West Point community, and he knows the special team stuff. There was a statistic, I don't think Army owns it anymore, but Army was leading the nation in block kicks for several seasons in a row. I don't believe Army really had any block kicks this past year. I could be wrong. We'll go back and look. They might have had one or two, maybe on extra points. But the nice thing about the special teams is that the specialty players themselves are coming back. So Dawson Jones is coming back to be the place kicker. And although he stumbled a little bit in the opening game against Tarleton State, by the end of the season, the guy was as cold as ice. And I think he hit his season long against the Squids in the third quarter. So he has become a force on that place kicking position, and he is much more automatic than he was at the beginning of last season. So it's very nice to have him come back with a year under his helmet to be ready and more mentally ready to face the very high pressure kicks that he often has to see. Then we got the punter, James Wagenseller. He's just gotten better every season. This is going to be his third season in a row as a starting punter. He's a big kid, booms the ball. His placement has gotten better. And he had some really important kicks last year that flipped the field in Army's favor, and that's part of strategy as well. So I'm not really expecting special teams to have any real hiccups. I think they're going to pick up where they left off. They're going to be strong, and they're going to be well coached as always. So all the components combined, we look at offense, defense, special teams, the coaches. Yes, there was some turnover on the coaching staff, but hey, this team is still being led by one of the best coaches in the nation, and that being One Each Jeff Monken. And we always trust in Monken. So I am very envious of any of you who are going to be going to the spring game. Enjoy, have a tailgate for me, have a drink for me, and give me your feedback on what you see, players that stand out to you. I'll look forward to hearing about it. So I know it's going to be a great way to end the spring year, and it's going to kick off the molding of the Army team as we move into practices in August and getting ready for the fall season. So with that, I'm going to let everybody go. Hope you enjoyed this video. Coming to you live from Poland again. This is Colonel Sam. Go Army. Beat Navy. Talk to everybody soon.